For anyone who may be new to one of our Smartcat webinars, my name is Emily Berryhill. I lead events and experiences here at Smartcat. I'll be kicking things off today, but by no means will I be your subject matter expert. I will leave that to Genevieve and Debbie. You are here for From Prompt to Published, how AI agents can automate your learning and development life. Joining us today is Debbie Richards. Debbie is the president of Creative Interactive Ideas, where she consults with enterprise organizations to drive impactful change. She also serves as an AI strategy consultant at Undesto AI, and she is chief learning advisor at Cognota. In addition to her AI consulting, Debbie is recognized as an ATD facilitator, focusing on AI workshops and shares her insights through international speaking. I'm sure many of you have probably seen Debbie out in the world at her speaking engagements and her tech consulting, but her commitment to the field really extends beyond her professional roles. She passionately mentors fellow learning professionals and serves as a director at L&D Cares, which is a nonprofit dedicated to providing coaching, mentoring, and resources to talent and development professionals. Debbie's contributions to the learning community are further evidenced by her past presidency of the Association of Talent Development Houston chapter and her role as a former national advisor for ATD chapters. She also is the author of Seeing the Possibilities with Augmented Reality and Preparing Your Organizations for New Technologies publications in ATD's TD at Work series. In 2022, Debbie was recognized as a Guild Master by the Learning Guild. This prestigious accolade acknowledges her consistent dedication, and she'll be showing us how L&D teams can level up their approach to AI with practical strategies, and you can implement right away. Along with Debbie, we're joined by my colleague Genevieve Carbone, who leads messaging and go-to-market strategy here at Smartcat. Genevieve will be walking us through how our Smartcat AI agents help teams automate learning workflows at scale while staying in control of voice and quality and compliance and brand and really all of the things. So, with that, I will turn it over and go ahead, Debbie and Genevieve, kick us off.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Emily. Oops, sorry, Genevieve. Go ahead.
No, no worries. I was going to say thank you to Emily and Debbie. I'm so excited to be here with you today. So thank you for joining us. We really are excited about this conversation.
Yes, thank you so much, Genevieve and Emily. I'm excited about it as well, and just ready to share some of the really neat things that we will be talking about today. So we're going to get started. I have been working with L&D teams for a long time, and recently we've been working with them regarding working with AI. And a lot of us are excited about using AI. We're doing generative AI prompts. We're getting content. We're trying to develop lots of different things, but there's still a challenges with AI. Once the novelty wears off, the reality sets in, and we're still doing a lot of manual work. For example, you might use a tool like Gemini or ChatGPT to write a course outline with AI, but then you are manually importing that into your authoring tool, applying formatting and dealing with all the different templates and things. And then comes the translation. So if you have to do translation for that course, you sometimes will take the output from that course and then send it via email or a Word doc or something else to people to review, and things start to slow down, and sometimes they break down as well. The same thing with generating an avatar with AI. You've got to create that in the software program. Like I use HeyGen to do that. Then you've got to download that, and then you've got to bring that into the course. So there's still a lot of manual processes. It's like AI has given us a jump start, but we haven't gotten closer to that finish line.
That's so true. And Debbie, that's exactly what we hear from our customers too. We're using AI, but we're still not launching courses or content any faster than we were before. So, the tools might be new, but the process really is the same there. And the process still has handoffs. There's, formatting hell that we've heard from our customers. And of course, they're waiting on localization, like you just said about like the emails back and forth. And that's why we say that you're not scaling, you're just like shifting that where the friction happens there. So, and with the Agentic AI, they're not just helping at one step, they're fixing the entire flow from idea to launch. So I'm really excited to talk about that today and talk more about Agentic AI.
Fantastic. I am too. And I'll just say, I mean, I don't want to downplay anything, but I'll say that a lot of organizations feel like AI, yes, it's going to help me speed things up, and the they're just having it do one thing. Um, and they're not realizing that the rest of the process, all these other things just take as long. So you can generate a transcript in seconds, but then you're still manually doing captions, you're translating them, you're uploading the files, you're still in the weeds as you're creating those courses. And I think we're starting to realize that it's not about using flashy tools. It's about whether training gets to people faster and more consistently. So you need end-to-end speed, not just that shortcut in the beginning. We've got to streamline that entire process.
That's so true. And I think that's exactly where AI agents come in. So they're not here to save you time with just one task within your workflow. They're really here to like accelerate the entire outcome for you. For example, you can give them a goal like, build this one module and deliver it in 5 languages, and they can handle everything in between there. So you're not pushing the workflow forward anymore. It's really the agents are the workflow for you. And we'll get into that a little bit more and make it really tangible and show it within the platform. And I think that's really how you go from the incremental improvements and showing the real operational scale that agentic AI can bring for you.
Yeah, and I think that we, in addition to this, we need to talk about the hidden cost of doing this training slow. Um, so when we think about that is I always look at it from a business perspective. Anytime I'm doing training, I'm thinking about my business goals, what I'm trying to accomplish. We need to make sure that we think about the cost of delays because they do add up. Um, when we miss that onboarding window, new hires take longer to contribute. So other things like if we don't have information out to the sales force with product changes and updates, then we may miss some major milestones and we'll have opportunities that we're missing for sales as well by not getting that information out to sales training. And for compliance training, think about that. Oh my gosh, you could have regulatory risks, you could have all sorts of things that are happening. Um, and the other thing is, people are used to getting things faster. We, with AI and everything else with technology speeding up, people don't want to wait for stuff. I know it's challenging for us in L&D because we want to do things right. We want to make sure that we're consistent in our training. We want to give quality training, but a slow delivery will frustrate your SMEs, it'll frustrate your teams, and they'll also sometimes create their own content because they think you're not delivering it fast enough, which breaks up that consistency, flow, and trust with L&D.
That's so true. We hear that all the time from our customers that the delays within training show up in real dollars. So you have slow training, you're getting slower time to value. So, like you were just talking about your sales team, if you don't get that training for new product launches, you're going to see that in your quarterly revenue. Or you're going to see that your new managers, if they're not getting the training that they need, you're going to see that in your employee attrition rates with engagement. So and I think what's even worse a lot of the times is that the content exists, you have it, it's just stuck in production, it's stuck in those workflows, and it's really a wasted investment. So we've seen teams, they often will spend weeks on the content and then it just gets stalled waiting on the translation or you're waiting on formatting, all of that. So again, that's where I think the AI agents really can help compress that entire timeline. So the content can get created, it can get localized, and then it can be published all within one motion.
That sounds like a dream, Genevieve.
Which
So,
brings us to the big
yes.
question.
Yeah, so this big question, what if you could automate the entire journey from a simple idea to a published, ready to go course? I mean, that sounds wonderful. Um, and just think about it. If we could go from that messy workflow to something smooth and reliable, does that make sense? So I want you to drop your comments in the chat just for a minute here. What if a subject matter expert could submit a draft um, and by the end of the day, you could have a full course published in 3 languages. I mean, that would be pretty amazing, wouldn't it? And I'll just say it's not a dream anymore. It's about using AI to do the real work and not just generating that first draft of text. And I really think it starts with the question, what can A from going from what can AI create to what can AI deliver? So what do you guys think about that? Go ahead and put comments in the chat.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what everyone thinks about that, just to get your thoughts on it. Um, and I really think what you just said, that's exactly it. The AI agents, it's not about creativity, it's really about like the execution of it. They really can carry your project from idea to output. And with Smartcat, you can hand an agent a goal. So you can ask them, convert this guide and into training and then localize it into these three languages. And it really can happen within hours, not just weeks. So you're not automating just one task, you're really automating the entire results and the outcome. So I think this is really where your AI can become part of your team. It's not just a software in your toolkit.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say, it's not gonna be that easy. I mean, it's not like snapping your fingers and it happens. So let's just look a little bit more into this, Genevieve, and let's see how things really work. So first of all, this traditional way probably looks familiar to a lot of people here. So we get a request to create training on data privacy, and that might come through an intake form or email or whatever. And then your subject matter expert gives you a 30-page PDF. We're going to use Gen AI to summarize the document and create a quiz. Even if you're using AI in some of these steps, it may not uh, connect all the dots, okay? Because you may have to use a lot of different tools to do this. Lots of manual steps, lots of back and forth between the teams. Um, we've got to write that script, create the slides, record the voiceover, do these files, and it may take weeks to do that. And even if you use AI, you're still in reactive mode. So let's look at that after. So to see what an AI agent can help us with this, because what you actually are going to be doing is going from a dozen different tools to managing a single output. So tell us more about this, Genevieve.
Exactly. And I think in the after stage here that we're looking at, this is where our customers really start to feel the difference. So they see it as the AI isn't just helping them write, it's helping them structure, it's helping them translate and localize, it's helping with formatting, and then it's preparing everything that you need and it's LMS ready. So it really seeing it as a production system and it's not just a translation tool or a course creation tool. So and because it's all happening within one environment, you really eliminate that file chaos and like the version control headaches, the multiple SCORM files for every single version that you need in a different language. And the end result is really that your content is faster to launch, it's easier to scale, and then it's more consistent across all of your markets that you're delivering it to.
Absolutely. And I see a comment from Vincent in the chat, and I will say that um, we are going to talk and do a deeper dive into how this would work. And so hopefully we'll be able to answer your question as we move along.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about the Smartcat agents. I've used a lot of different agents in the past. Once I generate content in Gen AI, I usually take it into Grammarly to do some grammar checking. And Grammarly is kind of an AI agent. It it uses natural language processing and machine language, and it gives me writing assistance and generates tests and operating and offer suggestions and stuff, but then I've got to cut and paste it and take it into something else, and it's kind of a general tool. It's not specific for AI. And the thing, when I went through and looked at these Smartcat agents, I think the thing that impressed me was how focused these are. So they're not trying to be everything. They're not trying to, appeal to that mass audience. They are specifically for L&D tasks that and use cases that we encounter all the time. And I think that's what makes them so much more effective out of the box. You don't have to train them from scratch. They already know how to structure a learning module. They will follow a style guide, that you can put in, and they'll generate content in multiple languages. And I'm not saying that, I don't work for SmartCat. They're not paying me. I just went in and looked at these tools because that's what I do is I evaluate tools for clients. And I think the big thing for me, and this is something that I always look for, is how secure the technology is. And I did a deep dive, the SmartCat agents are in a secure environment, and I think that makes them enterprise ready. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later as well.
Yes, absolutely. And we love hearing your positive feedback, Debbie, especially like you're in the seat, you're going through those workflows. So your positive feedback on our SmartCat um, agents is really, really affirmative. So thank you. And the agents, like that's all by design. We really built SmartCat so it can be an enterprise tool and it's not just a flashy demo or anything. We really wanted to go out and solve the biggest challenges that L&D has. So our agents can handle specific jobs like creating learning modules, translating SOPs, adding subtitles to videos, and they only get better with use. So they continue to learn from you, they learn from the language that you're using. So they really only get better with time. And they're not guessing. So they're applying all of your known processes and they're learning from the feedback that you provided. And again, we'll get into that when we show our demo here and you can actually see how you interact and the feedback that you're getting, and it only gets smarter. So this is really, the agents are going to help you scale and also provide quality at the same time that's on brand, that it's aligned with your company.
Yeah, and I have built some of my own agents in Gen AI tools, in ChatGPT and other tools myself, and have gone through and populated different things. And I'll just tell you, it wasn't a smooth and easy process. It took a lot of negotiation and working back and forth before I got something that worked halfway decent. And then trying to share that with my teams or with folks that I work with was also a challenge, because we had to collaborate and come up with things that would be standard across our industry and our culture. But when I saw the library and the catalog of the agents that SmartCat has, it immediately clicked because these are tasks that we do all the time. And it's not only L&D, it's our ops teams as well. So if whether you're trying to turn a PDF into a micro learning or you're trying to translate a bunch of documents at one time, it's there. You don't need to customize something. You don't need to build it from scratch. It's plug and play, and they have already gone through some of the major business cases that most L&D organizations would have to use. And since they're pre-built, you can start right away and you can demonstrate. Most of the times what I want to do is when I'm trying to show something different, I want to build out a small sample, a pilot or something that I can show, and I want to demonstrate the ROI. And you can do that here. We're going to talk more about that here in a bit.
Yes, absolutely. And so these are all of our pre-built agents that we have. And one of our biggest differentiators for them is the ability to be able to train them. They learn your context and they're really being able to only get smarter with time. We're also just not building AI, we're also building those workflows, which is really important. So you can have your agents, work together on some of these if you have, more complex workflow. And they're really configured to complete jobs end to end. So it's the creation, it's your translation, formatting, of course, any type of like glossary management and publishing, and doing all of that within one go. So again, really focused on like the outcomes of your workflow and like what you're trying to accomplish. So this level of automation is really what's turning your AI from just being a helper into a solution. And we're not solving step by step. You're really solving for the entire workflow. So you're thinking about everything that you need to accomplish and not just thinking about the one thing, oh, I need to create the outline. I need to do the entire process.
Yeah, fantastic. And the one thing that I'll say is that you guys have all that tech around translations behind the scenes too. So it's not just the power of the agents, it's the power of everything else that your company supports that really makes a difference.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's just kind of talk in more detail. Um, so when you are working with that agent, the best result is when you're talking with the agent and giving it a clear task. You know, I talk to my Gen AI tools and everything like they are my teammate, maybe a junior teammate because I'm always wanting to check it. So what you want to do is give it the information, just like any other kind of prompt. So in this example, we'll say, take this handbook, create 3 micro learning lessons, use a conversational tone, prep it for the LMS, and that's your ask, okay? But I'll say what it is it's not about creating specific prompts. It's about creating the goals. What is the output that you want to have? And the better you describe it, the better the agent will deliver it. It's just like anything else. You have to be clear and precise in what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where really our SmartCat agents shine. They're really not chatbots. We think of them as they're being task engines. So I personally think that a lot of SaaS tools are really overdue for a refresh at this time. So
I
we
agree.
wanted to, you agree?
Mhm.
And we really wanted SmartCat to feel different. So we want it to be more intuitive, more human. So just like you said, working with a teammate, again, your junior analyst, and like you're not using a tool. So, and that's how it's a new built-in teammate that you have just within the platform. And you can talk to it and say things like create a course in 7 languages, localize 15 SOPs into 12 languages, or connect my product library. So just chatting with it like you would with like a normal colleague. And then SmartCat will respond to any of these prompts and it gives you instant answers. It's able to take action for you and it really can guide you through that workflow. So it's just like a real teammate. And it's a really faster, simple way to work with less friction and just having more flow within that.
Yeah, so it's like amping up everything that you're doing. So we're going from that generative AI simple prompt where we were doing that first draft of content to now really amping it up and getting better goals and output.
Absolutely. So now we're going to take a look at our learning content agent in action. So you're going to be able to see it create a micro learning course flow from the source file, from the ready to publish file. So we'll go through the entire workflow. So you're going to be able to see how it structures the course. It adds any like interactivity within the course. It translates all of the content within the course, and we'll get into some really neat things that it can do within that. And then it's going to be able to prepare that file for your LMS and doing it all within one environment. So it's a really big time saver and it's really like a huge, just being able to like consolidate your entire workflow. So our agent's going to be able to replace a lot of disparate tools that, L&D practitioners are using and really remove any manual steps that you have into really one single task execution.
Yeah, and what I like about that, especially with teams, if you're working as a team and you have some senior developers and some developers who are just coming on or subject matter experts, is that it helps us mirror how we work. And then, when we start from raw content and then we want to complete and have a finished product. Um, and the big thing about that is it doesn't just stop, like if you're building something out in English, it doesn't just stop in English. If you are having to deliver this in multiple languages, it handles the localization as well. Um, and it does it at the same time. So you're able to create not just one course, but many courses. And so you can launch globally, not just locally. I know there are folks here from all over the world, so being able to do that would be very impressive. And the big thing I think too is it really using the templates, using the standardization, that you don't have a bunch of formatting nightmares and inconsistency in content that you're putting out there. You're reviewing that final output, okay? You're not building them from scratch. And I think that's a real game changer when you think about we're trying to speed things up, we want to make things consistent, and we want to have our teams to be able to work together. I think this is a real game changer.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And now we are going to take a look at what our learning content agent looks like in Smartcat here. So we've got a little video and we'll just give you a little snapshot of what it looks like. So we have a lot of, like we said, different pre-built agents that we have within our platform. So we're going to select our learning content partner here. Many different ways you can create a course. You can import a SCORM file, create a quiz, microlearning, or build an entire course. So we're going to do a microlearning today. So you'll see here, you can upload any type of document you want. You can upload a couple different ones here to be able to provide that foundation that the course needs. You just give a little bit of context, like what the course will be about, the course participants who will be taking the course, your learners and their goals, if there's any prerequisites for the course that are required here. And then you'll indicate what language the course is in, the source language, and then different types of elements in here. We'll get more into those in the content phase, how long we want it to be, and then it'll start to generate our course. So you can see here that it's going to automatically generate our title and our description based on everything you just input in here. But rest assured, you of course can work with the agent and give it some feedback. And again, it's going to learn from that feedback. You don't like any of these course titles, you of course can go in and remove it, add your own title in, just change a couple, make some tweaks to it if you'd like. So everything is highly customizable within here. So this is really creating the foundation that you'll need to be able to generate your learning outcomes. So it's automatically going to generate your learning outcomes here. And again, drag and drop, add new learning outcomes. You can edit these if you'd like, and then we'll generate the second level ones. And this is really going to help you create the foundation that you need for your outline. And then once we feel good about these, we generate our outline. And this is really where the substance of the course is going to happen. And you're going to start creating those modules and all of the content that comes within that. Do you want a video? Do you want an accordion? Do you want flashcards? So it's going to generate this for you. But again, drag and drop everything that you want. You can edit all of these. You can change the content type. So I changed that one to an accordion here. So it's highly customizable. And you can even prompt AI to go in and, change anything for you and generate some new courses. So here we're going to generate a video, an AI avatar video. So we agree on what the points for the script are going to be. You can upload your own talking points for the script. And then based on those, it generates your script for you. And then we're going to generate a video once we've validated that script. Again, everything here is completely editable if you want. So while we generate that video, we're going to go back into our accordion here and we're going to select text and picture. And we're going to have it generate a picture for us here. So we can add an image and then you just describe what you want for that image. And then it'll generate it for you. And it gives you a couple of different options. So when I generated this here, I was fine with that option. But of course, if you don't like it, you go back and you just reprompt it to give you another image. And then we can see that's our AI avatar video is already generated for us. You can download that video if you'd like. And now we're going to translate it. So a couple different options for translation. You can do AI translation or review. So you also can have somebody internally or within our marketplace. And then you also can select as many languages as you like. We have 280 languages that you can translate into. And then we click translate. And now we're going to preview the course and see what it looks like. We can toggle between different languages up at the top here and look through all of those, make edits to them. And then we can look at our theme as well. So you can brand it with your logo, with your fonts, with all of your own brand colors there if you'd like. And then also change different templates if you wanted the course to look a little bit different there. And then once we finalize that, we're going to export it. So you can export it into SCORM. You also can export into PDF or a document. And we'll choose SCORM today, and then it'll export it into one multilingual file. So that'll be one language within one file format there. And that was a lot of information in one short video there. So I just wanted to give a little bit of like an overview, be able to take all of that in. So it was a lot in there. What you just saw there was seeing that learning content agent taking that raw file and being able to instantly generate a full course essentially from there. But keeping in mind that you were the human within all of that, being able to prompt it, update it, give it the feedback that it needs to be able to create a beautiful course from there. And it's really not just generating your the text there, but it's also generating, you can do videos, you could do multiple videos, you can do different texts in there. So it's really all keeping that content creation and translation within the platform there. And I think that this one dovetails nicely into what we're going to cover next. It's, how do you get to this level of AI fluency?
Yeah, that was pretty amazing, Genevieve. That I experienced that myself, and just loved being able to go through that process. So let's talk a little bit about where everybody's at, and how can we get to an area and of understanding. This is a global content AI maturity model, and we'll share information later so you can check and see where you're at in this model. But I think this model really reflects what I've seen in the field. Most teams are stuck in level 1 or 2. And I'll tell you, I took the model, and actually was in 2. I don't think we're up at the other levels yet, because we're still experimenting with AI tools, but we're managing disconnected workflows, and we're doing all that work manually. I think it feels exciting at first, but it doesn't lead to real impact unless the tools are integrated, into something that we can actually use. And I find that's what I find, very fascinating and interesting with the Smartcat agent tools. I think the real shift comes, and where we'll see some changes, is when we start automating our workflows, not just our tasks. We really need to think about our processes and how we're doing them, and that's how we move up the ladder. And it doesn't require a big leap for us. We just need one small workflow so that we understand how to do it and we start building out that momentum.
That's so true. And we hear that all the time from our customers. And we built this maturity model based on our actual customer data. And it's really grounded in how L&D teams evolve from that experimentation of trying all different tools and then moving into that transformative phase. So level 5 is where a lot of our SmartCat customers land after using our platform, when our agents are fully embedded within their processes. So that's when you get the true scale, being able to have global launches, getting faster feedback loops, and really just eliminating a lot of your bottlenecks. And I also think it's very, very important to say that you don't go from 1 to 5 overnight. So that's why we always encourage our teams
Mhm.
to, start small. Debbie's got some really great pointers on that we'll get into, and then, prove the impact of those small steps, and then expand from there. So, AI maturity and fluency doesn't really mean complexity. It means consistency, finding that speed where it matters, and then having control over that. And we just wanted to highlight a couple of our marquee customers here who have really, seen some incredible results since using SmartCat. So first up, we're going to take a look at Brinks. Many of you are probably familiar with them. They're a global leader in logistics and security. So for training is mission critical for them. And they're onboarding teams across over 100 countries. And every piece of content has to be accurate, has to be timely and consistent. I know many of you probably resonates with you on the call. You hear that all the time. And it also has to be compliant. So as many of you know, the cash and security and everything that goes with highly regulated industries. So before SmartCat, they were dealing with email chains, manual editing, fragmented translation workflows. So now, with using the learning content agent that's embedded within their processes, they're slashing that delivery time by 90%. And they're able to support over 30 languages. And that's without growing any headcount on their team. So they really ended up speeding up their delivery of training by 10x, which is remarkable. And this is really the power of combining your expert knowledge and then having scalable AI. So Brinks was really able to build that proper infrastructure that was required to be able to move their training, move at the same pace as their business.
Yeah, and I think reading this case study, what really stood out to me, and this is like my mantra as well, is that they started small. Okay, so they did one process, one training, and then they proved that that worked. Okay, and then they scaled it across all those regions. That is so important. And it's a great example about how AI is not replacing people. It's about freeing people so they can focus on the value add work. So when you take localization and formatting and some of those other processes off people's plate, they can focus on improving the learning process. And I think that Brinks really used AI to make training an accelerator and not a blocker.
Yep, that's so true. And then we're also going to look at Smith and Nephew. So if you're not familiar, they are a global medical device company, and they're in a very highly regulated industry. So for them, training, it's not just about speed, it's about compliance and consistency and accuracy across all of the markets that they're launching training in. Um, when they first came to us, their existing processes were very complex and they were also incredibly expensive. So they had the fragmented workflows, and then of course they had really tight compliance requirements that they had to adhere to. And many of their outside vendors and agencies were just like increasing the costs that were to do all of that. And they also had really poor quality. They had, which is also very inconsistent, and they were really depending on an agency, which I know many of you are probably relying on. It can be very tricky to manage. And so much of the extra work from their regional teams were really outside of their normal responsibilities that they had to do just to maintain that. So by implementing Smartcat, they help them automate their content creation and all of their localization as well, and also while maintaining the regulatory compliance. So as a result, they were able to reduce their subject matter expert workload by 70%. And they now produce about 15 to 20 localized courses per language every quarter. So they're able to really build that motion of creation, localization, updates. So SmartCat is, helping the global team scale without sacrificing any of the quality or any compliance, especially in, really high stakes regulated industries.
Yeah, and this is fantastic because I don't know about any of you in the audience, but I know that the SME workload is usually the bottleneck for a lot of organizations. So if we can reduce that, that's so important. And this is a huge shift for us in thinking of teams who thought that bringing in automation would mean cutting corners. And I think in reality, it's much more reliable than manual workflows. There's no missed glossary terms, no formatting errors, and it's also much more sustainable. So if you reduce that workload for the SMEs, they're not burned out. They're excited to do this. They're like, when are we doing the next course? So I really think that in looking at this case study, that this organization proved that scale and compliance can coexist with the right tools.
Yes, absolutely. And then lastly here, we're just taking a look at Stanley Black& and Decker. They're a global manufacturing company, and they move very fast to be able to keep up to date with their product innovation. So being able to deliver training anytime they have an update, I know that resonates with many of the people on the call here. So with every product update, that meant that they had to retrain sales, support, and their technical teams in over 20 languages. So their previous process before SmartCat was really slow. It was very manual and it was full of bottlenecks at every single step. So by implementing SmartCat, they automated translation and their localization, and they brought all of their product training content into one centralized workflow. So this allowed them to be able to keep the training aligned with each product launch. So no more delays, no more rework of those. And they were able to cut the translation costs by 70% while maintaining a really high quality and being able to automate a lot of that project management that came with them. So I think this is a really great example of how scalable training impacts more than just learning and development. It really can help keep your go-to-market efforts in sync as well.
Yeah, and I think these case studies are so important because when we go to our organizations and we want to talk about how we can make improvements and we want to test drive a product, having these types of really successful case studies help us with this. And I think that this particular case study shows the value of timing. So when training arrives with the product, then those sales teams are ready from day one. And it's not just a language problem, it's a readiness problem if they're not, okay? And they solved it with scale, not stress. And I think that's what mature enablement really looks like. It's not just faster, it's smarter. And it's a great blueprint for how to embed L&D into the pace of business. Great example.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good point.
All right. So let's talk about some of the things that I think are super important. Many of you probably have heard me talk about the phrase human AI human. Okay. It This is my favorite concept because I think it reframes AI as a collaborator, okay, not a replacement. So you start off by providing the goal, the strategy, the tone, all the expectations. Then AI goes off and does the work and you're going to review it, you're going to refine it, and you're going to teach it. That's so important. That's a critical part of it. And every project becomes a learning opportunity for your team and the agent. Okay. And that's how you scale. And you do that without sacrificing quality. You have to stay in the loop.
Yes, that's so important, and I love this diagram. And we built this into, this loop into the Smartcat platform, as you just saw. It's every single step, there's human in the loop. So AI is going to do something for you, but then you're going to check on it from there. So in our philosophy is that AI should enable human judgment, it should not replace it. And that's why our agents improve over time. So you're going to give them feedback and they're only going to get smarter from there. So they learn from all of that feedback from your style guide, from corrections. So just like a teammate would. So I feel like that's the common thread here. We keep talking about AI agents as a colleague. So this structure really helps with accountability and really helps you to stay in control of whatever is going out the door. So it's very scalable and it's also safe. And we really believe that this is like the future of enterprise AI.
So true, Genevieve. You've got to teach that agent, okay? It's just like a new hire. It needs to be fed information. And this is something I coach teams when I work with them all the time. You can't just drop AI into the workflow and expect it to perform. You have to guide it. You have to give it the tone. You have to give it the examples, your branding standards, just like you would with any new instructional designer. Just treat it the same way. And the more clear and consistent you are, the better your outputs. Okay. And always provide the feedback, because even though you're getting that information, you're reviewing it, you're looking at it, sometimes AI will still hallucinate and it'll give you some things that may not exactly be right. And so you've got to have that feedback back and you have to tell it what to change and it'll adjust that for future projects as well.
Yeah, and it's so true. And in SmartCat, all of that training and all of that feedback becomes the system intelligence. So the agent doesn't forget it and it's only going to get smarter with every project that you do with it. So you can upload your style guide, your glossary, the best samples that you have, and the agent just starts to reflect your brand and your style instantly. So when you correct something once for the next time, there's no repeating yourself. It's going to know that's what you want. So that's really how your brand voice quality and like that's how you scale all of that without a lot of the rework that comes with that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. This is one of the things that I hear from L&D groups all the time, and this is about data. Okay. And we want to know where it goes, who sees it, and how is it stored. And I think that that's really valid. Our IT departments are going to ask us about that. And that's why you really need to choose platforms that are built for enterprise grade privacy and security. That is so important. And the solution isn't to avoid AI, it's to use the AI that respects the environment, your environment, and also your compliance need. So make sure that whatever you're using, um, you have control of the vault, okay, so to speak, and and you also have the flexibility of the system.
Yes, absolutely. And Smartcat, we are enterprise ready. We have like 10% of the Fortune 1000 companies. So we're very familiar with enterprise grade security that's required. So, we run, our AI agents in a secure in-network environment. Nothing is shared externally, of course, and everything has an audit trail enabled. So everything very secure. All of your data is going to stay within your domain. The agent does not operate outside of your rules. And again, there's always human in the loop. That's very important. You approve whatever gets published. The agent never goes rogue, of course. And we made sure that this was designed to be safe by default. So it's very smart to do that. So, of course, very important is data and security.
So let's look at some practical L&D examples and talk about how we might use these tools. If you're a practitioner, this platform reflects how we actually work. It's not theoretical, it's operational. And you don't have to babysit tools. You assign tasks and focus on strategy, which is so important. And because it covers creation, translation, and formatting, it'll take care of the gaps that usually slow us down. I mean, I don't know about you, but that is the fog of my existence sometimes. And I think this is what enables us to really have scale, not just faster content, but stronger learning impact.
Yes, and at SmartCat, our mission it really is to help teams work without borders. Linguistic, functional, or operational to really break down those barriers. And our agents are trained to execute, not just write and translate, but to be able to deliver usable, deployable learning assets that your team needs, and being able to scale all of your processes without adding headcount to your team. And we really think this is the future of enterprise learning, being able to create fast, flexible, and global by default.
Yeah, I can't agree more, Genevieve. I think that this is something that's at the next step. If you've just started working with AI, this is your next step, using an agentic tool that can really streamline that process and that workflow. So let's look at some values and outcomes. So this is where everything that we've talked about so far really becomes real. These are actionable, repeatable workflows that L&D teams are automating with AI agents. So think about the number of times that we convert static documents into learning materials. Now that becomes a process, not just a project. And how about how many times we wish translation could keep up with course updates? Think about that, the workflow and the challenges in doing that. These aren't really edge cases. They're real everyday cases that we do just done faster, better, and at scale.
Yeah, and I think these use cases, they come directly from our customers. They're really the building blocks of, what we consider scalable L&D operations. So you'll see everything from compliance in 15 different languages to being able to do video captions that meet accessibility standards. And then being able to do like real-time sales enablement alignment and making sure that, of course, any updates that come from those are captured and being able to do that in a timely manner. And I think the big shift is that these aren't isolated wins. They're part of a whole unified system that compounds that impact. So when agents are able to handle all of that heavy lifting, that your team can really focus on learning experiences, not just logistics.
Yeah, fantastic. So if anybody knows me, I always want to give you an assignment to come to take away from a webinar. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Give this a try. I mean, we all have a lot of tools in our toolbox. We're developing content. Some of you guys are using Articulate Storyline or Adobe Captivate and other tools. And you are using a lot of other tools. I use Grammarly, I use HeyGen, I've used all these things, but I gave this a try, and what I'll tell you is, um, just pick one workflow, something that's repeatable that you have to do, like converting a PDF into a course, and run a small pilot. Okay. And run through and check, what does it take you to do this? If you're not using an agent like this, using maybe AI to create that first draft content, and then going in and creating the other assets and those other core and those other tools that you're using, and then try it in the Smartcat tool, okay? And use it to prove value, okay? Learn where your team could benefit most and refine before taking that to the next step. This is not going to be the tool for everybody, but if you are an enterprise organization and you're moving quickly and you have to create content rapidly for multiple languages and across the enterprise, I think this is actually a tool that you should check out. And then when you do that small pilot and you work through it and you show the value, that's how you build buy-in for the tool, and you build momentum as well.
Yeah, that's so true. And I will mention we do, if you did want to try it out, we do have a free trial available to you as well to kind of like, just go in and try one of those workflows. Because that's how many of our customers have started, with one workflow, one use case, and they saw the speed, the consistency, and all of the quality, and they were able to scale all of that. So they set a clear goal, like cut translation time by 50%, and they were able to run the pilot, collect the feedback, and then iterate it on it from there.
Yeah, and that's the best way to do something, when you're testing out a system. Just run through, try that pilot, see how it works, and then you can evaluate it. You can look on the website for additional things around security. And of course, if you've got any questions, the SmartCat team is great about working with you. If you need a demo before you get started, the team will schedule a demo and show you how it works. They're incredible.
Thank you, Debbie. And now we're going to dive into some Q&A with a few minutes that we have left. So
Yeah, and I'll just say we've covered a lot today, and this is a really big shift. So, if you're wondering about pilot ideas or internal adoption or how to upscale your team, please ask us your question, because we want to help you move forward. If you don't feel like asking it today, you can contact SmartCat, but put some questions in the chat box, and we'll get to those. I was going to go back up through Genevieve too to see what other questions we had. So there was a question from Stuart about having the agent write learning modules for other types of e-learning courses, um, taking into account the interaction features offered by these tools.
I feel like I might need some more context on that question. And if you're trying to work just within the SmartCat platform, or if you're trying to use different types of tools as well, like if you're using Articulate as well.
This was a question from Stuart. I don't know if he is still, yeah, Stuart is still here. Stuart, do you want to come off mute and ask the question? I can give you that permission if you want. Just check, do a thumbs up or something. All right, here comes Stuart.
Hi, Debbie, Genevieve. Yeah, basically, we don't subscribe to the Smartcat tool. We've been talking to one of your salespeople about the potential for it for our organization. So I'm not that familiar with the whole sort of ecosystem and how it all works, to be honest with you. And when we're listening to that original piece about the 30-page PDF that comes from your SME, very familiar with us. But we just wondered if the agent is able to produce an e-learning course from that original PDF that takes into account interactions that say like articulate rise, where you have a process interaction, or drag and drop, typical e-learning course interactions. If the course produced it take those into account, would it say, would it summarize the SME's work into a course and say, for example, this would fit a drag and drop interaction, or does it work that way? We're working a bit blind on what we know about the tool, so that was my question, really.
Yes, absolutely. So it will, if you have that, it'll try to align with the interactivity within the course that you've outlined in your document. So yes. And then of course you'll go back and, like a human in the loop, you'll also be able to like validate everything that comes from that, and change it if you'd like, and reassign it if maybe it didn't do what you expected.
Okay,
Yeah, so
perfect.
yeah, it does have some of those interactions, and they showed it in the demo, but you can go in if you don't particularly like one of the interactions, you can change it up and make it a different one, and that's that human in the loop component as well.
Perfect. Yeah. Unfortunately, I took a call just as the demo came up, and I missed that. So I'll catch that on the recording if there's a recording going to be sent. Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
Yes,
recording.
absolutely.
Okay, so the other one that I saw was Jody asked, it can generate a video. What styles can it do? Animated, photorealistic, etc. So when we did that avatar video, um,
So it generates the avatar video. Let me get back to you on the different styles. We have different styles for our text video, and like the text video for being able to generate a image from text. So let me get back to you on the type of file formats for the video.
that sounds great. Okay, what other questions do you have? Let me go back through um, and
Well,
look
one
through.
thing while we're getting on some questions here, I did want to highlight, we do have our maturity model scorecard. So you can go in, we have a QR code here. We'll also send it in our follow-up email as well. So this is where you actually can go in and score your maturity on AI. So it's going to help you map how you get there and what it takes to move up to the next level. So once you complete it, you'll get tailored recommendations based on your workflow. So this is a really great tool. So I just wanted to highlight this for everybody. If you wanted to score and get or scan the QR code here and get a head start on that.
Yeah, and I'll just say too, if you've got questions about some of the different types of engines, if you go out to the website, there's like a lot of examples of what those different agents do. So the one that I did try was the PDF agent, because that for me, that was like a quick, easy one to do. And going through and working that, I tried doing it I gave it some style guide information, some of the terminology, the reading level that I had. And then I did an English version PDF, and then I had it translate into Spanish too. And it had all the things that I needed, the workflow, as it asked me all the questions, so I didn't have to think about that. In Gen AI, you've got to, work with it and give it all that information. And if you're going to build out an agent, it's not as streamlined, I'll say, as this process. So I really believe that this is the next step in where we're going with things. And I hope you guys give it a try. I don't see any other questions. Genevieve?
No, I don't see any else. And I know we are at time right now. So with that, I want to thank Debbie so much for being here with us today, with sharing your insights. It's so helpful. It's wonderful to present alongside you. So I really appreciate that. Thank you everyone for joining us today. You will receive a copy of the recording and the maturity scorecard as well. And again, we do have that free trial if you want to get started on it, just test out some workflows like Debbie said. Or of course, if you have any more technical questions, I do highly recommend scheduling a demo, asking all of your questions, and just seeing if Smartcat would be a good fit for you.
Yeah, and then also if you've got just some general questions about this whole process and everything, feel free to reach out to me. I'm easy to find on LinkedIn.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Debbie.
everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.